Goal Getting Podcast, Episode 30. Want to achieve your dream goal? Listen to the tips from the guy who made it happen to himself. I dropped 70 pounds going from a 4X to a 1X in 4 years. I went from 10K to 6 figures without a college degree. You too can get the goals you set. It's time to live your best life now. I'm your host, Tony Woodall, and welcome to Goal Getting Podcast. Hello, goal getters, and welcome to Goal Getting Podcast. This is your host, Tony Woodall. Hope you're doing well today. Today's session, we're going to be talking with my good friend Joe Pardo, and we'll get to Joe in just a moment. What I want to talk about is just to let you know, I hope you've noticed we've been doing the Goal Getting Quote of the Day. We're getting close to our 90th episode of Goal Getting Quote of the Day. Next week will be 90 episodes, and that is amazing. I started it as an experiment, and it has kind of grown. We have over 20,000 downloads of Goal Getting Quote of the Day, and it's just been a great time, and I hope it's enjoyable for you, and I hope you've listened to it and gotten a lot out of it. It is a lot of work, and to be honest, I've been unable to concentrate on some of my goals that I had set before I started it, one of them being losing weight, and I really need to start concentrating more on that. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get the time in that I need to go to the gym and do the workouts that I need and, do that part. The losing weight is 80%, health, or not so much health, 80% diet, they tell me. And then the other 20% is, the exercise. But honestly, I believe 80% of it's mental. And then the other 20% is kind of a, maybe 15% diet and 5% exercise. Cause that's that mental part to make sure that you commit to doing what you wanted to do and what you need to do. That has to be done. And I am, really slacking on my goal to lose the weight that I wanted to. So I've got to get back into that, and I'm going to be working on that. So this is going to be fun to try to maneuver my time so that I can do that. But I've enjoyed doing the Goal Getting Quote of the Day, and obviously you've enjoyed it. So thank you for listening and coming to the show. I also have another goal that I had planned on doing that my involvement with the Quote of the Day has taken a lot of my time from, and that's creating an online goals course. And I guess the big question is, would you even be interested in an online goals course? If you would, I'd love to find out about that. So if you'd be interested in, signing up for an online goals course, or, learning how to set and get the goals effectively online, let me know. Leave a comment in our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe, which is what this episode will be, because we're talking to Joe Pardo. So it's goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. And let me know in the show notes whether or not we would be interested in doing a goals course online. I'm going to be working on putting that together, but just haven't had the time lately. So I'm going to have to try to find the time to do that. The other thing I want to ask about is I'm also putting together a private Facebook page, or group, not a page, but a private Facebook group called Goal Getting Masters, for all of the goal getters out there, to give you a place to, have private time to share, or a private place to share your goals, your dreams, things that you want to accomplish with people of like mind. That's one of the things we talk about, is having like-minded people that you can share your goals and your dreams with, and, they can help hold you accountable. We'll talk about getting accountability partners. We'll talk about, kind of a mastermind of what we want to do to help you get your goals that you set. And so I'm going to be setting that up. It's going to be called Goal Getting Masters on Facebook. It's a new Facebook group, and it will be a closed group. If you would like to be a part of that, I will let you know that you can go to goalgettingpodcast.com/masters, and I will have a sign up where you can sign up, give me your name and everything, and then I'll let you know as soon as it goes live. My plan is to have it October 1st online, so that we can have our members that want to participate in this closed group on Facebook can get in. So if you'll go ahead and send me your email, sign up on our email book, so that we can get that information to you. Then we'll let you, join our Facebook group. It's going to be private, so only those who know about it can get in. And you can also, if you want to recommend it to your family or friends, you can recommend it to them as well. So look forward to talking about that. goalgettingpodcast.com/masters to sign up. Now, my guest today is Joe Pardo. Joe Pardo and I met at Podcast Movement back in July. And again, you can find information about Joe today on our show notes page at goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. Now, when I met Joe this past July at Podcast Movement, just kind of hit it off. Joe's a dreamer. He dreams big and he gets big. He's a great guy. I enjoyed speaking with him. We've become good friends, talked a lot. And Joe is a fellow podcaster, and I want to share his dreams with you. He has 2 podcasts, The Dreamers Podcast and Living the Dream. Living the Dream is primarily about Disney, and Joe's a big Disney fan, Walt Disney, and talks about Disney, and he's interviewed some great people from Disney on their podcast. The Lee Cockrell, for one, is a phenomenal interview that you need to go listen to on Joe's podcast with his co-host, Krista Joy, on Living the Dream podcast. But we'll have those notes and connections on our show notes page at goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. So let's go ahead and head out so that we can listen to Joe and hear what he has to say. So thank you for listening to goalgettingpodcast.com and the Goal Getting Podcast. And we'll come back after Joe enlightens us on some of the things he's doing, and we'll talk with you soon. Hello, Goal Getters. This is Tony Woodall, your host for Goal Getting Podcast, and we're here today with one of my new good friends, Joe Pardo. I met Joe recently at the Podcast Movement 2015 conference, and Joe is a dynamite podcaster and a dreamer. And, we love goal getters and dreamers here on Goal Getting Podcast. I want to welcome you, Joe, and welcome you to the show. And how are you doing today? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's a lot of questions there, Tony. First of all, it's awesome to be here. And it's great to be here. It was great to meet you at Podcast Movement. I'm actually wearing the Podcast Movement 15 shirt this moment.
All right.
So I'm enwrapped in the awesomeness that was Podcast Movement. And so I do all kinds of things, and you can find out most of them at joepardo.net. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, web developer, DJ, to some extent a coach for entrepreneurs and small business people. Just a ton of things that I do. And I hate when people say, Joe, you're a jack of all trades, master of none. And I'm like, no, because I put a lot of time and effort into each of the things that I do. And I try to make those goals that I obtain, or I know that I can obtain, I try to make them into lessons that I can adjust for the other things that I do in my life.
Okay, cool. Now, I like that master or jack of all trades. I've used that myself many times. I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of some, not a master of none. We all have certain things that we master, and I think you've mastered many, as you said. Looking at joepardo.net, you talk about being an entrepreneur, speaker, podcaster, blogger, author, DJ, filmmaker, coach, and, of course, being a dreamer. So I was noticing that you've got your own website, Dreamers Podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about Dreamers Podcast?
Yeah, so that's the website is dreamerspodcast.com, but you can also get there at the more known howtodream.co. And basically I interview people who live their dreams, and for a while there I was doing it 5 days a week. So I'm up to over 200 episodes already, and going strong, and it's opened up so many doors for me. It's not about the money, and it's not about the sponsorships, because I don't have any sponsorships, and from that specific show I have $0 coming in. But the point is it's opened up endless doors that I'm so grateful and so thankful to have.
Okay. And what does dreamers mean to you? I mean, you're a big dreamer, and we talk about dreams. doing a podcast on dreaming and dreamers, what does that mean to you and to use? I know when we talk about dreams, we always hear, oh, you have to dream big, you got to dream this, dream that. And what does that mean to you, and what's the premise of the Dreamers podcast when you get into it?
Well, I've been questioned on this from time to time as far as like, oh, well, dreaming's great, but, it's really about the doing. And I'm like, well, of course it is. I'm not bringing people on that just have lofty dreams that aren't doing anything about it, These are people that are actually successful, or they're successful in taking the steps towards it. I don't just want the people that went to the moon and came back. I want the people that are still building the rocket to get to the moon, or people that are on that journey towards the moon, or on their journey, on the way back.
Right, and that, again, I'm totally with that. The dreaming, you've got to have dreams. I mean, you have to have that vision. I've been doing a daily quote of the day episode or series on visualization, and you really have to have that vision or that dream, and you have to visualize. And that's kind of what the same thing is. Dreaming is, in my opinion, visualizing and picturing yourself doing and being what you want to be. And so that's great. And then again, I think you have definitely not only dreamed, but you've also done, and that's the important part. You have a lot of different podcasts. You've got the Dreamers, and you also have a Living to Dream podcast as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so the Living the Dream podcast is all about enjoying your journey along the way. It's Disney based, but we talk about a lot more than just Disney as well. We do interviews with people like celebrities and Disney legends and people like that, musicians, athletes, chefs of like super high end restaurants. So I mean, it's basically, we talk about lots of things that you can go and do along your way of living your dream.
Right, and a lot of people have different dreams and different goals, and that's pretty good. So I'm excited to check out both of those podcasts that you have out there today.
That's actually a video. It's on YouTube as well. We've done a lot of video interviews in person, so that's something that's different from the Dreamers podcast as well. It's not the same questions with different people. It's really it's a different show, because I even have a co-host, Chris DeJoy, who I'm very thankful to get to work with. So, and
that's, you said, a video podcast, so.
Yeah, so there's video, but it's also audio, so you could just listen to it. It's on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can also watch the video of it on YouTube.
Okay. Now, Joe, if you've got somebody out there whose goal is to do their own podcast and wants to do something like that, what are some tips you might have to, since you're an avid podcaster and produce quite a few of them, that's excellent. What, are some good tips that you might have for somebody that wants to start a podcast or be a podcaster?
Well, you got to figure out what it is that you really want to talk about. You have to figure out what is it that you could talk about for more than 10 episodes. About 2 years before I got started, some very good friends of mine who are very popular podcasters, they were like, hey, Joe, you should have your own podcast. And I was like, me? No, I don't know what I would talk about. And they were like, you love Disney, you should talk about Disney. And I was like, I think by episode 10, I would get tired of that. So I was like, no, that's not for me. And it would be 2 years later when I was sitting on a plane and I got the inspiration after hearing about John Lee Dumas's Entrepreneur on Fire. And I was like, well, I know a lot of entrepreneurs. I've been around business since I was 6 years old, coming up in my family's business. But I know a lot more people that live their dreams. And when I was on a plane to Disney World at the time, which seems to be a pretty big inspiration for me, every time I go, I get something new out of it. And before just as the plane landed and before we got to the rental car, I had already registered a domain name, dreamerspodcast.com, the Twitter handle, and the Facebook page from my phone. Like, while we're walking through the airport, this is what I had.
Wow, you're kidding, man. You're just...
when I get an idea, I run with it as much as I possibly can for the time that I have allotted.
And that's key, I think, in doing any type of, having a dream and a goal. You have to act on it, and you have to act quickly. That's the kind of person that gets where they're going to go. if they do the steps that they have to do. So that's excellent. And that's pretty cool. Now, you also, I was noticing that you teach podcasting to children. You have a program for schools that you work with. That's amazing. As kids go back to school right now and need something to do instead of, hanging out on the street corners. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing in that particular area.
So it started out as the idea that the school that I got hooked up with because of a kid that was on MasterChef Junior that happens to live 2 towns over.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He came in second place in season 3, Andrew Zappoli. Shout out to Andrew because he's actually a good kid. If you ignore the South Jersey strut, if you will.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of MasterChef kids and MasterChefs. I probably saw him out there.
So he, that school was really interested in the idea of what I was doing, which was because I was able to get Andrew on my show, and they were like, we really love this idea of a podcast. You should do a podcast for us. Now it's a Catholic school, so there's the added like, hey, no other Catholic schools or other charter schools are doing this right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't probably because nobody knows how to do it that happens to be in the area that happens to want to do it. So they're like, you should do one for our school, and I was like, yeah. I was like, I could, but here's the thing, right? I'm a guy. My aunts actually went to the school when they were growing up back in like the I guess the 70s, and that's cool. But the thing is, I'm nobody, I'm not one of the kids at the school. I'm not a teacher at the school. I was like, what if I taught the kids how to do it here at the school, and I got them to basically run it. I showed them how to run it, and they were like, okay, all right, let's see how it do. So they paired me up with the computer the after school computer club, which was so dedicated that they actually originally only had an hour and they after school, and they petitioned to get an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
So they could have more time, which was good because we were able to get some stuff done. So they run the website, they run the content, they run the topics, they do all their own recording. The only thing I really do at this point, once I got them, explaining everything, is I do all the editing because I want to get it done. Mm-hmm. So before school ended, we had about 10 weeks to when school, from when we started to when school ended, and we got 3 episodes out.
Excellent.
So we're going to start it back up. We're probably already doing it now.
Yep.
And the idea is to get it so that every single week there's a new episode.
Well, that's great. So again, working with kids and doing that is a great idea because I think they're the upcoming podcasters going forward. And I know some children, or not children, but kids have a podcast already. I think there's an 11-year-old you were talking about the other day that has one.
Liberty, yeah.
Yeah, Liberty. So it's amazing. So got a couple questions for you. Let's go to our Q&A round, Joe, if you don't mind, as we go through here. Now, we talk about habits and goal getting and how good or bad habits can affect our achievement of goals. What kind of habit do you have that has helped you become successful?
I don't know if you'd call it a habit, but it's something where I try to listen to my body, and I try to listen to like know what it is I have going on up in my head, and what I have to do to hit the reset button, right? If I'm getting stressed out or I get like too wound up because of something's going on or a topic happened or something, some reason. One of the biggest things that has helped me, especially when I was still working for my family's business, was being able to hit the reset switch without going to sleep. And basically what that meant was turning on an episode of South Park or turning on Tosh.0 or something that was funny that could get me to laugh and get my head out of how annoyed I was with work, pretty much. So yeah. It's not really a habit per se, but it's just knowing like, hey, this is who I am and this is how I can hit the reset switch without going to sleep. Or maybe if it's for you, taking a nap for 10 to 20 minutes, just laying down. That's another big thing. I like to take naps, but sometimes my naps aren't even going to sleep. They're just I need to go put my body in a horizontal position for like 10 minutes. I don't need to close my eyes. I just need 10 minutes to just get all the weight and pressure off my body.
Right. No, that's good. That's really important, I think, to people. So if you don't do that, sometimes you'll just let the stress continue to build. So it's a good way to, as you said, to, reconnect and, hit the reset button. So that's really good. Good idea. I like that. And I like just being able to lay down for 10 minutes or so. Cool. Joe, now you mentioned your family business a couple times, just out of curiosity. What was your family business?
My family's businesses are in trucking, truck repair, truck parts, trucking, logistics. So the main company was the truck parts company, which was recently sold earlier this year.
All right. I'm just curious because you've mentioned it a couple times, so just curious what the family business is. You obviously didn't go into the family business, so hopefully...
Well, I was in it for 10 years,
10 years, yeah.
12 years.
Yeah, okay.
12, good. Almost 13 years before I said, this isn't for me.
Now, did you have any limiting beliefs that kept you from achieving your goals as you got started, and how did you realize that you had them, and what did you do to change them?
I didn't want to believe that the whole money thing. When I got started, again, John Lee Dumas helped inspire it without even knowing, and I've since thanked him for that inspiration. But I guess the biggest problem was for the first couple months, I thought that's the way it was going to be. I'll do this show, and I'll get sponsors right away, and I'll be making some money, and then I can figure out what I want to do from there, and I'll write a book and create products and do all that stuff. And I mean, it's only been a little over a year, right? It's right. Been like about a year and a half. So, and I have created, I have my book, I've had T-shirts, I've had Adventuratorium, which was my first DJ album, which pretty much sparked this whole journey.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So you're definitely a serial entrepreneur.
but the problem is I don't know what have I done that's limited myself.
That's not so much limited in yourself, but just some beliefs that may have stopped you from doing something. It doesn't sound like you have much that stops you, so that's a good thing. You continue to, when you get the idea, you push forward and attack it with a vengeance in some cases. So that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So maybe you don't have those limiting beliefs.
I'm sure I do. I just don't know what they are.
Yep. That's good. Sometimes
I
that's a
haven't
good
identified
thing.
them yet, but now it's going to be eating away at me. So
I know. That's all right. I'll talk to you about some ninja philosophy on messing up with the opponents there sometime when you're in sports, but we won't get there.
Oh, you know what? No. You know what? I do know what it is. I know what it is. It's working in a team.
Uh-huh.
For a lot of things, I want to work with myself because I trust myself. I trust the work that I can put out and the amount of time I can do it in. And I trust all that. And that's something that people have to do. Like, if you don't trust yourself with the stuff, figure out what it is what it's going to take for you to trust yourself. If it's somebody else that's holding you down about this, you're not good enough. Like I said earlier with the jack of all trades thing, you need to not let that get into your head too much. Look, I hate that term because people, I mean, and this is just me throwing this out there, but I think those people are jealous. Those people are the people that can't necessarily, and I don't mean to throw the word jealous around like I'm trying to attack anybody, but seriously, if you're capable of doing more, and you are, like, as I found out this weekend, and I'm pretty sure you were there, Tony, and I forget who said, I think it was Pat Flynn that said, "Hey, everybody raise your hand. Okay, raise it 2 inches higher." Yep,
I was there.
It's so simple yet so brilliant that you can definitely do more. So you have to trust yourself, and I limited myself in, okay, I don't want to work with other people because I've done that for all these years of growing up, and I see the quality of work that when people just don't care or they don't care enough, and I think what it is actually what it gets down to is being too passionate, and then working with people who aren't passionate enough about what you're doing or what you're there for. And it's no good for either party, and it brings the worst out in both.
Yeah.
And it, it's a shame because I like to think that I try to be a nice person. I do the right thing, but my passion gets in the way a lot of times of that. And can causes like a lash out or something like that, when it's like, did I really mean to lash out? No, I'm just not. I'm just like ready to go. Like I said, I'm a person that when I got this idea, I'm going to register the domain name and the Twitter handle and the Facebook page. And here I am a year and a half later after 200 episodes I had 180 in the first year.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I'm going to take it to an extreme and just do it as go ham, as the kids say, every time, because I know that for the most part, I know what I want, and I know and it's sometimes and this is a great thing I meant to say earlier, with just because you have a vision, it doesn't mean that you're capable or you understand how to explain it to someone else for them to understand it. And that's why you have to own it. So some people might doubt the fact that, like, they might be like, oh, you just want to stay at home and not work or do anything like that. Like, you're just trying to, be a bum. But that's not the case. That's why you have to trust yourself, and that's why you have to know how to listen to yourself and know how to create that excitement in yourself every single day.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I agree. That you have to have that passion. Passion will get you places that you never thought you'd get, and that turns a lot of people off sometimes, but it also turns a lot of people on. Like I said, it'll just having that passion that you have will open up new doors and present things to you that you might not have gotten without that passion. So I think one of the things when I used to hire people a lot, I always looked for attitude over aptitude. Sometimes if somebody has a good idea or a good attitude and a good passion for what they're doing, they can learn things that need to be trained, so that's important. So cool, Joe. I think that's, not necessarily a limiting belief, but, definitely I can understand your points on there.
I know there's a lot.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's very good information. Now, one of our other questions I like to ask our guests on our show is, what quote hangs on your wall? Now, I happen to know that you actually have 2 quotes hanging on your wall, so I'm going to let you pick the one that you want to talk about, or you can talk about both, or a different one. But what quote hangs on your wall that inspires you and, helps keep you motivated throughout your day?
Okay, so I do have 2, but I actually have a third one. You just couldn't see it when I showed you my camera. I'll give you the one that I wrote, and I'll give you the one that I bought.
Okay.
The one that I bought is, whatever you decide to do, make sure it makes you happy. And you need to be happy. And that's one of the things where it's like, when I was coming home from work every day, I was so wound up that I'd be literally screaming. My wife's sitting there, and I'd go from talking to screaming in seconds, not screaming at her, but just screaming about the situation until I could turn on the TV and watch something to undo all that with some laughter. Which is funny because the other quote that's here is, laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever, from Walt Disney. Now, my quote that I wrote, and I have it on my websites and stuff, is, society starts with you. And I wholeheartedly believe that. But the one that I guess I try to live, not live by, but one that I really, really love, by somebody who a lot of people love to hate, is there's 2 types of people in the world. There's dreamers and there's haters. And the only difference is that haters gave up on their dreams. And could you guess who that's from?
I won't say Donald Trump, but...
Not quite.
No, who is that?
That's Kanye West.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I've actually heard that attributed to him before, now that you mention it. And yeah, he is somebody that you have haters and you have, likers of him one way or the other. You either love him or you hate him. I'm kind of ambivalent. I love his music. I love his attitude at times. And then sometimes I hate him, but that's a great quote, and very true quote as well. I like that. So, that's cool. Kanye's, we won't get into that because he'll probably call me up and yell at me, but, I do like your music, Kanye, and, I do like, your attitude most of the time. So, anyway, thank you, Joe. I'm gonna get in trouble with Kanye. I just know it. So anyhow, now we all talk about books and reading, make us successful, or we like things. Do you have a book that you recommend to someone trying to achieve their goals?
Okay, so there's two books. Of course, I give more than one answer. There's two books I just got done reading. And did you pick up Kimanzi and Jared Easley's books?
I did. I haven't read them yet, but I did pick both of them up. So.
Stop chasing influencers. If you're looking to be an online entrepreneur or entrepreneur in general, or even just like get better in the market or the craft in which you're working in, it's a great book to get some self-assurance that, there's other ways to do it other than chasing the top influencers in your market. And I've always believed that, growing up, I wasn't exactly the cool kid, but what I would do is I would try to gather up all the kids that were quote unquote not cool together, so then all of a sudden it's like, hey, so my group is way bigger than yours, and they're not quote unquote cool, but you know what? They're all friendly and they're all loyal, and we're all gonna have a good time, all of the time.
Yeah.
So that's just me. But the other book that I think really kind of helped me a little bit is it's called the Myth of Multitasking. I think it's called The Myth of Multitasking. Something to that. I'll just Amazon that right this second. Is that a verb yet?
That's right. Not yet, but we just made it one here. So
multitasking. Yeah, The Myth of Multitasking: How Doing It All Gets Nothing Done. And it's a very short book. Now, I hate reading books. That's why when I wrote my first book, I wrote it to be read by people like me who hate reading books. Short with a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
But point is it's a very short book, and it tells a short story and explains basically why multitasking is a myth, and you're really just, most people might know this. It's switch tasking is what you're doing. But a great example on that, and you could do this at home right now, is if you write 1 through 10 and then A through whatever the 10th letter in the alphabet is. But you alternate. When you alternate, so you go like 1A, 2B, 3C, 4, and I'm slowing down myself, versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. I don't know, I probably went past 10. But see the point?
Yep.
The point was just illustrated right there in something as simple as just writing a number and a letter. And when you alternate like that, it takes so much brain power to switch back and forth to what you need to be paying attention to. So
that's a great visual. If you start thinking about that, it's good audio as we said here, but it's when you do think about that as the visual of what you just did, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to it, like blocking out time. There's people out there like the 4-hour work week, which I've never read, but there's lots of ways to minimize your multitasking. But the biggest thing is just to minimize, like, how many tabs do you have open right now and how many are you actually using? Maybe you should bookmark some of those and come back later. Instead of having all these tabs and jumping between stories and jumping between this and that. And I know a lot of writers that will turn off their Wi-Fi or disconnect from the internet while they write.
Oh yeah, I think you would have to. That would be very distracting to me.
It is. And then they'll make notes of things they have to look up on the internet later when the time is right.
Cool. Now those are good books. I appreciate those suggestions, and we'll pass those along to our listeners on our show notes. And our show notes will be goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe, and you'll be able to get links to those books out there so that you can either purchase them or do what you want to with them, hopefully read them. So those are some great ideas. Joe, you mentioned a book that you have. Tell us a little bit about your book that you've got 31 life-changing
concepts. Yeah.
Which I just picked up on Kindle, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. I woohoo, 33 cents.
Yes.
I really appreciate that. The book was basically a bunch of concepts that I've given out to my friends, advice that I've picked up along the way. And I was like, look, I want to write a book, but I don't want to write a book that's like 400 pages with only like 10 pages of actual information on it. I'm not trying to write a prestigious book. I'm trying to write a book that's like, hey, when people ask Joe, hey, Joe, how is it that you've gotten to where you're at? I can just be like, here, read this book. It's only like 5,800 words, and there's 31 pictures in it that are I'm not an artist, but they're hand drawn by me in Sharpies. In fact, the cover is hand drawn by me too, if you couldn't tell.
I love the Sharpie. Yeah, I mean, I love the cover of your book. So
thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, well, the whole idea was like, hey, this is what the power of me is, and this is what I can do as not quote unquote being not an artist.
Right.
So it was very important to be like, okay, I'm not going to hire somebody else to do these pictures. I could have got my brother-in-law to do the pictures. He did the cover art for Adventuratorium, my first music album. So, which if you love Disney music, go check it out. But point is I was like, I'm going to do this, soup to nuts. I had 3 editors work on the book. 2 of them are very good friends. One has become a friend. But point is it was something that was just, it's all me. And with that said, I'm actually working on, and by the time this comes out, might even have my second book out already. And hopefully that's the case, because I'm supposed to work on it this upcoming week.
Okay. I'm sure you'll have it ready to go. Now, we're getting close to the end of the year, so what are your top goals that you have for this year that you're working on?
Well, let's see. We just passed on the first ever Mid-Atlantic podcast conference that I'm hosting here in South Jersey, just outside of Philadelphia. So hopefully, knock on wood, that went over really, really well. So far, attendance is good. The sponsors have been amazing. We're just rocking and rolling. I'm already like starting to pipe dream about next year and where I'm going to take it next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Excellent.
yeah, there's that. Like I said, a second book along the way. That's definitely going to be out well before the end of this year, and maybe even by the time this podcast comes out. And the third thing is I actually have like 4 things for the end of the year.
Uh-huh.
The third thing is I'm working on my own platform building site. It's called yourdreamplatform.com. And as of right now, it's looking like for $100, you will get access to not only a community, but all video tutorials on how to start building your own platform online. So it'll be going through the process of what platform should you choose, and what things can you talk about that you're not going to get bored with after 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there. You get how to build your own website. Then if you want to do podcasting is included. How to do all that, how to launch it, the best ways to do all that. Then video, how to put together YouTube videos or Vimeo, or if you want to do the video thing on iTunes as well. Then how to do the social media thing, how to get that out. And that's level 1. Level 2 is going to be an extra fee, and will come later on down the line, where we start talking about, okay, how do you build an online store? How do you do Fulfilled by Amazon? How do you do eBay? How do you do more in-depth marketing with like the email and all that? More like just more and more value. Probably each level will probably be about $100 a piece. So to keep, just to keep having more for people to come back to. And I have a whole mind map of more, more and more things. But it all starts with the platform. Getting your website, getting your podcast, getting your video, getting your social media going.
Okay, and this would be good for somebody who's wanting to start a business, or somebody who has a business that needs to start working on a way to get that marketed online, things like that, to get these types of tools and techniques and ideas out there. I think that would be good for them if that's one of their goals, is to do online or do podcasting or have a website. They should check out somebody that knows what they're doing and get the tools to be able to do that pretty.
The one hook with it is the idea that the videos are short. So I want to create short videos that they're searchable. So when you're stuck trying to figure something out, you can find a video that's only like a minute or less. Mm-hmm. So some of them will be longer, obviously, but the idea is that the ones like, how do I create a link on my website?
Right.
That video should only be 45 seconds to a minute. It doesn't need to be included in a 20-minute like tutorial on how to start a website, soup to nuts. And it's like, okay, well that's great, but unless you're sitting there with two screens, which not everybody is. Right. You can't watch the video and do it at the same time unless you keep pausing it, and that's not conducive. And going back in time is not conducive either. So right. the idea is while there will be some longer form videos, I want to do short videos so to help people like get in, get out, and get what they need to save time, because that's really what you're paying for, not just the knowledge, but to save yourself the time right. of going and figuring all this out on your own, one Google search at a time.
Right. Oh, cool. Now, that's a great idea. And I think people will look forward to that. And, we'll have some links to Joe's platform building product there on our show notes when we get that out there, which will be goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. And we hope you'll go out there and listen to that. So, Joe, we're running out of time. I want to take measurement of your time. I know you're very busy today, and I appreciate you being on the show. We're going to go ahead and leave with some words of wisdom. What's the best advice that you could give to our listeners who are trying to achieve their goals?
I write about this in the book. I believe that everything pays rent. And to give you a visualization or an audio visualization of it, think about like if you were renting an apartment, or even if you own a house, you pay so much money for the square footage in your house. So everything that you put into that house has to pay rent, whether it's through necessity or it's some kind of pleasure or entertainment value that it gives you. Because and obviously the bigger the item, if you think about it in square footage, the more necessity it needs to give, or the more pleasure or entertainment it needs to give you. Otherwise, it's not paying its rent. So it could be making money for you, and that's awesome if it is. Whatever's if it's a desk, well, a desk takes up a lot of room in just one room. But when you think about that, when you divide out how much you're paying per square foot within your living area. Think about it like that. Mm-hmm. Is it necessitating all that rent? Is it paying its rent of that right. of that space it's taking up?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great concept. I like that. I'll have to think about that more. It actually did get me thinking here, so I'm gonna have to play with that a little bit more. Yeah,
in terms of desks, or as my friend Danielle Watson would put it, terms of purses. Uh-huh. So, it doesn't matter what the item is. It's just a matter of like how much space does it take up and how much value is it bringing you.
Right. And again, that's not just physical things, that's mental things and everything else that you're talking about. Yeah. So, is it, as one of the things I use sort of like that is the juice worth the squeeze kind of thing. So that kind of brings that out. So cool. I like that. And Joe, I do appreciate that. And I want to thank you for being on our show today. Goal Getters, if you want to go find out more about Joe, I'm going to have links to all of his websites and his book and everything on our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. Go out and check it out. Joe, thank you so much for your time today and spending time with us.
I really appreciate you taking me serious enough to come be on your show, and because I know as a dreamer and as a person that gets along with kids sometimes better than adults,
yep.
it's nice when I can get on other people's show and especially professional shows.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that compliment. And, we're here to, like I said, help the people get the goals they set. And I think you've got some great ideas. And, everybody has to dream. We have to have a dream. That's where it starts. And, when you get that dream and you have that passion, then you start doing the things you have to do to get to that dream. And that's what we're all about here at Goal Getters, is getting the goals that we set. So you've got some great life-changing concepts, 31 of them to be exact, and we can definitely learn from you, and we do appreciate that because I think we did.
Thank you.
All right. So, Joe, thank you, and we'll talk to you next time, folks, and thank you for joining us on Goal Getting Podcast. Hello, Goal Getters. Welcome back, and thank you for listening to Joe. And he is a dynamite guy, and I would appreciate it if you follow some of the links on our show notes page at goalgettingpodcast.com. Check out his podcasts that he has out there, the Dreamers Podcast and the Living to Dream Podcast. I think you'll enjoy listening to them both. They're both very good. And if you could go out and subscribe and leave him a rating and a review, I would appreciate it. But, Joe's a great guy, and I think you'll enjoy listening. So go out and do that. I also wanted to remind you before you leave that I am starting a new private Facebook group, and it's going to be called Goal Getting Masters. And it's for those people who are interested in, being able to keep and track their goals and want to learn more about goal getting and how to do that. I've got a lot of documents up there, our maintenance worksheet and our poster and several other documents, and I'll continue to add, good content and good files for you up there. But we'll also talk about accountability partners. It'll give you a chance to meet other people that might have like goals to yours that you can, work together on. So it'll be Goal Getting Masters. And if you're interested in joining our private Facebook group, go to goalgettingpodcast.com/masters and sign up, and I'll send you the information to get signed up on the Facebook group when we start it, which is expected to be around October 1st. So if you want to be, one of our founding members, go ahead and get in there now, and we'll let you in there. So goalgettingpodcast.com/masters. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about, I mentioned earlier that one of my goals that I had was to set up a goal setting or a goal getting course, an online course. And with all the work I've had to do with the change in my career, and also with the, the goal getting quote of the day, it's taken up a lot of time, and I have not devoted the time I need to be able to get this done for you. So, if you're interested in taking a goals course online, do me a favor, go out to goalgettingpodcast.com/course, COURSE, and sign up, and I'll get you some information when we're ready to go, and maybe some heads up on when we get ready to start that. So I would appreciate it. Let me know if you're interested by signing up. So we'll go out there and let you know. The other thing that I want to talk about is just to thank you. The goal getting quote of the day is going well. The podcast is growing, and I want to thank you all for listening. I do appreciate it. We're going to head out here today for this week and go get busy and do some more work and try to get some weight off and get in better shape, and then also start working on the online goals course. So those are two of my goals that I have for the rest of the year that I have to work on, and I hope that you'll follow along and let me know what you're doing. And you can go to our show notes page at goalgettingpodcast.com/Joe. If you want to leave a message for Joe, I'll make sure he gets it and contacts you. If you want to leave some comments about the show, what you think, I would appreciate it as well. So I'm going to let you go. We're going to play my friend Mark Sensinger created this piece of music for our show called Baccarat. We're going to head out, and you can listen to Baccarat on the way out. Thank you so much for joining us for the show today, and we will see you next week on Goal Getting Podcast.